Test.
Spooky ghosts.
He held the lantern, whispered my name, swallowed the butterfly as they flew to the flame. I can feel it burning, burning, feel it burning, feel it burning, feel it burning, feel it burning low. Her soul in hiding, how afraid. A galaxy turning, stardust remain. I can feel it burning, feel it burning, feel it burning low. I can feel it burning, feel it burning, feel it burning low. This heart of mine, outside of time. This heart
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Three Kings. As you can see, we have 3D avatars now because why not? And this is our first
I love
episode.
it.
I mean, we figured, right? It's an improvement. It's better than nothing. I still don't want to show my face in the internet because, it's the internet. And with us, as always, we have my friend Dapper. How are you doing, Dapper?
Hello.
Dapper is the very elegant slug that you see here to my left. And
Don't make me blush.
this is the magic of Face Rig, as you can see here. This little software here. I have my pipe. I can blow my pipe. Bloop, 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 bloop. And it has these little bubbles. And the show is about trying to evaluate and sort of make a commentary on the things that are posted to the Three Kings subreddit. We always record it live, so I could say anything career ending anytime. That makes it interesting, that makes it exciting. We could get canceled for saying the wrong thing. And it's live. We cannot take it back. The genie is out of the bottle. So what we're gonna do is we're going to go as usual, right? What we were doing before. We have these Three Kings subreddit, and we find something that we think is interesting, and we comment about it. Uh, our credentials are as follows. I created this subreddit as a result of a experience that was rather interesting from my younger years, many years ago in Mexican juvie. And it's paranormal. I certainly believe it is, or could have been. And my friend Dapper, he has forgotten most things that most experts know when it comes to the paranormal. That's how vast
No, but
his
just tell him
knowledge
I'm a
is.
space wizard. That's cool. I like
He's also a
space wizard.
space wizard. This is important to note. So I hope you enjoy the podcast. So again, Three Kings is a subreddit to share our experiences following any kind of paranormal recipe or ritual. Basically, we have almost 40,000 people. Most of them are tourists. They just come here for the entertainment value. They explore what is beyond the veil, right? They want to know what is paranormal and what isn't. And since the
They are the
beginning of
coolest people on earth, let me tell you.
we certainly do. And since the beginning of the internet, right? I mean, I remember back in the good old days in the X board, in the fortunes, we used to post little recipes and little paranormals like the Einserhauer copy pasta that had certain instructions on what you're supposed to do in order to experience something otherworldly. Recipes, creepypastas, copypastas, rituals. This is a subreddit that sort of codifies them. And due to the way the internet works, Reddit is a massive hub of stories. And a lot of people come to No Sleep, which is a subreddit, to post their creepy stories, their scary stories. And No Sleep sends them to us, and we end up having a lot of stories that are paranormal in nature but follow some sort of a procedure. So I think that's enough of an intro. Oh, Dapper, you might want to hide UI for higher quality in your
Oh,
little face rig
right,
stream.
right. Sorry. You didn't
Yeah,
see that. The
I
magician
only
hides the
there you go.
secrets.
See quality. We're all about
This,
quality.
this isn't a fake artificial. This is my real face.
100% is you are actually a space wizard slug. People,
Yes, it's Space Wizard Slug.
little known
You see my
fact.
crystals? I got a bag full of crystals. Each of them does an amazing, cool, magical thing.
Little known fact. So what I did is I clicked top for this month, and of course we have the usual complaint that this isn't a fiction sub. I've made my thoughts known about this. I don't want to devote too much time to it. I think it detracts from the podcast. But I think one of the comments said, what does the owner create? What does he think about this? Right? This the mods would like to hear your thoughts on this. So I posted back. Here's what I think. Basically, what I think is that it's almost like legalizing drugs, right? When it comes to fiction in a subreddit, drugs is something that society in general doesn't want, just like a subreddit doesn't want fiction, but society is gonna have because someone is gonna find a way to do it, and we just have to face it, right? It's like people are going to write creepy stories and they're going to try to post them in No Sleep, and No Sleep is gonna send them to us. It's just fact, right? And when that happens, it's up to us to decide what to do with those fictional stories. We can a sort of cover our eyes and pretend that they are real and leave them in the subreddit, and it's sort of like lying to each other, right? Like the writer lies to me saying, "Yeah, this is real, bro. It totally happened," and I lie to the audience saying, "Well, maybe it's real. I mean, who am I to say?" And we're just deceiving each other. Or B, we can just acknowledge it. We can just call it as fiction, and that's why we created a fiction tag, which is tale, in fact. And that's why I'm allowing it. Everything that is posted in the subreddit that is tale is most likely fiction. Is almost 100% guaranteed to be fiction, and that's fine as long as it's labeled and as long as no one is being misled or lied to. Then I am okay with that, right? So that is my usual answer to the periodical complaint that there is too much fiction in the subreddit. It's a fact of life, right? So let's start with the next most popular one, the Tortured Lilith ritual. All right, well, it has an interesting title here.
I would just like to point out that
Yeah.
if anybody who's looked into anything occultish or into the New Age stuff, you'll find that a lot of it is mixed in with absolute bull. There's a lot of lies,
Yeah.
but the process is filtering through to find the nuggets of truth. Because even great philosophers will tell you they're telling analogies or stories, but there's truth within there. And I think
Yes.
some of these are real stuff that you need to be very careful with. But people like to embellish.
You know what? That's actually a deeper point, and I should go into it just for a little bit longer because many of life's greatest lessons sometimes have been delivered within the payload of a narrative vehicle of fiction and a story, right? This is how wisdom used to be passed in the olden days. Starting with the Epic of Gilgamesh and every other fiction story that has been made. They're just a vehicle to pass valuable information and to teach certain lessons, maybe to pass certain morals, maybe to continue certain values that are intrinsic to each society. So stories aren't bad per se. Stories are great. They are one of the best ways humans have to learn things and to pass knowledge because they're interesting and they carry a little payload in them. So stories can be good, right? The only thing I do in the subreddit is I tag them, right? Because I believe in truth in labeling. So if a story is, if a post is labeled as fiction, it's probably a story. That doesn't mean it's bad. That doesn't mean you cannot learn from it or there is no value in it. And and with that said, I think this is probably one of those. So maybe at the end, after I read this whole thing, I'm gonna go back and mark it as fiction. Who knows? But we'll see. We'll see. So it says the torture. Go ahead, Dapper. You had something to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the title alone is like one of those horror movies where somebody's like, "Hey, tortured Lilith ritual. I wonder what this is," and you know how that movie's gonna end. The
Yeah,
title says it all right there.
the torture
Just
Lilith
put
ritual.
it down and walk away. I mean, we'll
All
read. We'll see what it has. But I
right.
just want to say that's a huge red flag up front.
Fair enough. No, I believe you. So it says, okay, have you heard of Torture Lilith? I have not. If so, you can skip this as you'll know what comes next. If not, then maybe I can help expand your horizons. Has Google heard of Torture Lilith? Let's find out. Ah, no sleep. Ah, how did I know? The Torture Lilith ritual in no sleep. Sorry, this post has been removed. Why was it removed? Paragraph with four or more starting spaces detected. I swear to
Ooh.
you, the no sleep mods are some of the most stickler that I've ever seen, ever. Once you have formatting issues, so probably this person tried like a million times and it didn't work. Still, is number one result in Reddit. Oh no, no, no! Look, here we are. Torture Lilith ritual in Three Kings. Path of Lilith, torture, torpor, and humanity. This is Vampire the Masquerade. So that's something else. Did Lucifer make Lilith while in the cage? All right, so it's fair to say.
Well,
Oh, look, someone made a YouTube of
here's
it.
the thing. I just want to make really clear. All right,
Yeah,
White Wolf has actually a there. If you go through their entire library, especially all the old stuff, they really dug deep to some stuff that should not be public
you think
for a
so?
lot of people. Yeah, they pull from a lot of real old school stuff, and they have a whole book about the Lilith cycle and how that her point of view. And if you dig into that, you end up in some very strange territories. There's a large amount of esoteric literature out there from small publishers that talks about her role and what she does. So it's both. It's this role playing game. It's like a vicious cycle. They feed each other. The role playing game feeds the occult community. The occult community feeds the role playing game back and forth.
Y-
So there is stuff in this. There's some real stuff in this.
So you know what makes me smile in a sad way? During the 80s, right? You had the Puritans people saying Dungeons and Dragons is a gateway to Satanism. Remember
Let me
that?
tell you.
Remember that scare?
Yeah.
Isn't that what you just said about Vampire the Masquerade?
Well, see, I want to deconstruct that. I know that's the podcast isn't exactly for deconstruction of concepts, but I need you to take a moment and think about that. And that is that role playing is the freedom of will to project yourself as any character you could think of. And they're saying it's a gateway to thinking evil. And it is, it's a neutral gateway. It's what you do with it is your choice as a person, your morality.
Yes, I agree.
And
I'll say this. I mean, Vampire the Masquerade is one of the most enjoyable lores that I've played in role playing games. But it is dark. It pulls no punches. I mean, until recently, at least it didn't. So
yeah.
you,
But you keep those separate. There's that line of manifestation where as long as it, the Sabbat is not real in real life, and you're not going to go out like draining people of blood. That's where that line remains.
that's what it should remain, right?
As long as you
Stay.
keep it over that line, it's like yeah, the tortured Lilith myth is some big stuff, but we're not going to make that real.
Look. I'm with you. We should keep that. Like, if we're gonna manifest any power to it, it's gonna be the power of look what a great game or what a great story, right? And don't go beyond that. So I'm already thinking that this 67 output post is probably fiction, right? But we'll find out. So let's continue. Let's see. I don't
Yeah,
think
let's get
he's
through it.
White Wolf fails, but let's go through it. All right, so here we go. There is a certain ritual that is said to summon Tortured Lilith. Oh, okay, so that's like her title. That's like CPA John Smith. Just that's honorific. But
Well, I want to use a real analogy there. It's Prometheus myth. He's eternally tortured, and the what's the other one whose guts? Is that the one whose guts? Yeah, the guts
yeah,
were pulled out by the
that was
birds.
Prometheus. Yeah, he brought the
And
fire,
like
and
Sisyphus does the same kind of thing, and he pushes a boulder up the hill instantly.
that's right.
So the fact that she's tortured also fits in with other biblical and metaphysical stories from older religion cultures.
Who the hell is Lilith though? Is that like the first wife of Adam?
Yeah, do you want this whole story? Basically,
Give me
she's
the.
made out of the same thing that Adam is, but because she's an equal, she wants equality and he wants her to lay beneath her. So she goes out and just has a million kids with monsters in the Nod, which is the land outside of Eden. And then they're like, you should stop doing that. You're not allowed to go do that. And she ends up hooking up with Lucifer when he's guarding the gate with the flaming sword. So there's that story going on.
Jesus,
And
that's a
then
hell of a movie, man. What is
yeah, and then
HBO when you need
afterwards,
it?
Adam is like, oh well, I want another wife, but I don't want her to be strong-willed. So Eve represents the submissive rib coming out of his side, which is why
Oh,
it's all pretty bullshit, anyways. Because Lilith's like, why should I be less than anything?
she was the
You
first
know?
feminist.
Yeah, she is, and that's why like Lilith Fair. You have the affair every year where they come for feminist power to embrace this concept of the strong. I'm reading a book right now, by the way, called Red Goddess, which outlines Babylon. And it talks about how Lilith is kind of the unfiltered, dark, primal, anything it takes to get done side. And Babylon's the organized, more relaxed side of the process. Anyways, I could go on and on about
That
Lilith
look,
stuff.
this is why you're here, my friend. I could have never known like a fraction of those things. All right, this is amazing. So okay, so let's recap, right? So Lilith, first wife of Adam, world's first feminist, not reluctant to like very open-minded about the kind of partners that she takes. She wants power. Apparently, she's tortured, and this is a ritual to summon her. So cool. All right, let's continue. But as with all such things, most people say nothing happens, and a few others will tell you of a scary event that happened afterwards, but nothing verifiable or with any evidence, as Randy would say. You know that skeptic guy, Randy, right? Who offers $1 million to anyone who can prove.
Yeah, I mean, I love it, the fact that he can filter him out, but he's also kind of a jerk.
Yes, he
The
is.
same with Penn and Teller. Like,
Yes,
you
he is.
respect their level.
I feel the same way about it. All right, let's continue. Rituals like this have been around from time immemorial, from the legend of Bloody Mary or the Three Kings ritual. Thank you. It's a little shout out there. This one is slightly different, though. Despite the various methods that have already been posted about Tortured Lilith, really? Have various methods been posted? I couldn't find anything in Google. Only one is correct. Any deviation on it will result in it not working. All right. Well, that's better than working wrong, if I may say. It's better if it's not working. All right. The main difference is that you have to be selected to be part of the ritual by another person who has been through it. What a wonderful loophole! What an amazing loophole! If you put this disclaimer, then any ritual is possible. Just whatever your mind can imagine. It didn't work. Well, I didn't select you. You weren't selected by the chosen one who did it. This is amazing. Just this sentence alone makes the entire thing unverifiable and moves it straight into the realm of urban legends. So,
Well, it also is something that does actually happen. That is these kind of things. These secret rituals are usually passed down directly from teachers and the occult community, and that's why you socialize in the occult community. You find people who can teach you these things and show you what you. It's kind of like an exercise trainer. You go and you go to work out, but you're not working out right, so you're not getting the full experience. The
fair
trainer's like,
enough.
well, if you do this different, you get different results. That's the theory, but you are right. The way it's set up, it could mean like, oh yeah, you just weren't the chosen one. You just need to
Yeah,
be give me. And that's where you lead into the give me more money Scientology side.
that's exactly what there is always to the master and the apprentice. Isn't that a Sith thingy? except that this is with rituals. This ritual isn't for your casual creepy story aficionado. All right. So a little bit of gatekeeping there. The other elements are simple. You'll need one, some kind of hood or face covering, because if you're gonna do a ritual, you gotta look the part. Two, three matches. Three, a tub of salt. Does it come in tubs? I mean, let's just say a bunch of salt. Four, a bowl of water with a pinch of salt stirred into it, anti-clockwise three times. Interesting. All right, two long twigs from a tree. Right? Don't give me those little cheap little twigs. They need to be long ones. Six, a memento from a deceased relative. This can be anything from an old photograph to a book they once owned, or maybe an item of clothing they used to wear. This one is powerful. This one is used in another ritual that we have in the subreddit called the
Well, just any it's psychometry, which is the reading of psychic connections to physical objects.
right, right. And the one that I'm thinking in particular is called the shoebox telephone,
Yeah.
and that one has a lot to do with just priming yourself to have an experience with someone that means a lot to you, and that value is represented physically in this object. Right? So
Yep.
so I can
Yep.
see where they're going with this. So that one is good. Seven, two large stones, each about the size of where you can grip them comfortably in the palm of your hand. So like
I want to
golf
point
ball,
out, I love how all of a lot of these rituals are also alchemy because you start with the elements. You start like what
right?
matches are made of, various chemicals, and you have salt. You have the hood is the blinding because there's a binding in rituals where you are depriving yourself of sight so that your other senses, so your third eye or whatever expands.
Interesting.
You have water. You have wood.
Right.
It's like a Avatar level here.
Yeah.
You've got all the different elements coming in.
Right. No, I hear you. And this reminds me of previous podcasts we had. What was his name? Fry Yara, and we went on a whole long road of the four elements. That's very memorable podcast. If anyone's listening, it's the first one actually. I recommend you go back to it. So yeah,
Yeah,
alchemy.
we need more guests like that.
Yeah, no, 100%. All right, let's continue. You'll also need to be inside somewhere. I mean, okay. It doesn't have to be your home. Indoors, that's what it means. It doesn't have to be your home, but you will need somewhere where you won't be interrupted. So make sure your phone is on silent and you're not at work. All right, so you need a private place, a bunch of ingredients. That's all you need. No
You could probably
mirrors.
do this in a cusp in the woods somewhere, like where the trees make it so no one can interrupt you.
Well, it needs to be inside somewhere. I mean, you could be inside the forest canopy, I suppose. I, I don't know if that counts as indoors. Uh, I feel attacked. No mirrors, no darkened rooms, no waiting till a late hour. Those those are the three elements of Three Kings. So that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. So then to the ritual. All right. Place the two twigs, the long ones, in a cross shape on the floor, in the shape of an X rather than a plus. Well, this is a matter of perspective, isn't it?
It's alignment.
I mean, you just switch 45 degrees, just walk slightly around it. All right, anyway. At the top of the cross, you place the. So, hurry. See, he says cross. You should have said at the top of the X. You
He says
place.
cross shape, but he just says turn the cross shape.
See, because now I don't know if you should place this memento like at the top of the X, that means between the tips of the two twigs, or at the top of the cross, which means on top of one twig.
What
So
matters is that it's at the highest point.
this is kind of like instructions unclear, got stuck in laundry machine. All right, at the bottom you place one of the stones. All right, so memento, then stone. You sprinkling a tiny bit of the water along the left, then you light one of the matches until it burns out and place it on the right. You know what this is, right, Sean? This is like so obvious. Water,
That's a
fire.
Yeah, that's the four corners. It's a Kabbalah
Yeah,
cross, which I do often.
with the four elements. You got.
Yep.
I am not knowledgeable enough to know if that the position means anything. Like apparently,
So they do, but various people have started coming up with their own definitions, and you have, every country has variations. East and West have variations, but they are whatever they're using their perspective for this is usually associated.
They do.
In the one that I do, it's the let's see, East is air, South is fire, West is water, and North is earth.
Ah, that's interesting because that's not what they're doing here. So, all right, so let's pretend that the top of the first one is north. In that case, that would be memento, which I'm gonna
Theirs
guess
is inverted.
is air. And then south, they're putting earth, but that's not where earth goes, right? In yours, where does earth go?
Well, if they're saying the bottom is Earth, then that means it's upside down, and then that's why the water is on the left
On the
and the
left.
fire is on the right.
Interesting. An
Oh
upside
yeah,
down
the
cross
light.
of elements. Huh.
Yeah,
All right.
it's an inversion. We're into the anti Kabbalah, which is the tree of death. This is where the Clipoth remain.
Okay.
And that aligns. What's weird is that aligns with all of the mythology about her because she is so angry at Jehovah's earth created for the humans, that she saw as her equals but rejected her. So she retreats into the anti-life tree.
I see. I see,
That's
which
where all her
is.
demons come from. She is the mother of all demons in mythology.
So this sort of makes sense because she represents death, so she flips the tree upside down, which makes the
Yeah.
element be in all the opposite places. Interesting. Okay, so I'm gaining more respect now for this ritual because if they research that far, that is worthy of respect. So that's good. All right, let's continue. Pour the salt around the cross, but make sure you are inside the ring of salt before you finish the circle. Isn't that also the reverse? Like usually you put the salt to
Um,
prevent things from getting in.
think here's the thing, think of the salt as a line, like a wall. you
Yeah,
know it doesn't matter which side the prisoner is on and which side the warden is on. What matters is that the wall is there.
fair enough. Fair enough. All
So
right,
the circle is built to trap the entity inside the circle, but if you're in the circle, you're allowing everything to go outside the circle while you remain safe inside.
got it. Got it. Okay. All right. So now you are inside the circle. Light another match. Wait for it to burn down. Then throw it outside of the ring of salt. Okay. So there is a little fire outside your wall. Now you are ready. Some say they can feel time stand still at this point. Others say they have a heightened sense of someone else being in the room. Everyone has a different recollection. You then light the match, okay, another match, right, presumably, and look at the ground, uttering the words, Lady ancient times, dead for your crimes, someone you hear my plea, hear confessions. Okay, so you do your little chant. Blow the
Wait,
match out. Go ahead.
this is a complicated way of doing confessions.
I guess so. I guess, I mean, if I was Lilith and people were doing this just for funsies, I probably wouldn't appreciate it. I would be like, I have better things to do. I have demons to meet in demon equivalent of Tinder. Uh, Blow the match out, and you must immediately put on your hood or face covering at this point, because Lily doesn't want COVID. Then make sure you are gripping the other stone in the palm of your most dominant hand tightly. Okay, so stone in one hand, hood on the face, darkness. Once your eyes are shielded, you must say the word, whatever this is, confiture, 3 times in a row, like Beetlejuice. Whether you are aware of her presence or not, she will be there if all instructions have been followed. Of course, you can't see her because you're wearing a hood. Is the hood supposed to block your vision? It didn't really say, did it? It didn't.
Yeah, I mean that's the theory is that a lot of initiations and rituals and stuff have blindfolding as a process, and again that's redirecting from the visual senses to the third eye and the other senses. It the entities like thought forms and entities of demons and whatever, they work through the process of how open you are to them. So the more open you are, the more they can manifest in your imagination.
I see. I see. That makes scary sense. However, in this particular ritual, they didn't say that you should be blindfolded. This is some kind of hood or face covering. So you're probably
Yep.
wearing your, corona mask. So it says there is, you're aware of her presence or not. Uh,
I'm just wondering if all the demons refuse to answer summons because they don't want to catch the corona.
Probably they're like, keep a safe distance, 6 feet apart. Like all the, pentagrams that you must draw in blood on the floor, like stuff, like they need to be 6 feet wider now because you need more space to
Oh,
don't
I wonder if those are containment rituals.
try not to cough on the demon. All right, when you're aware of the presence, you now have as much time as you can spare to confess to something wrong you have done in your life. In the third grade, I left a thumbtack on Miss Klinger's seat. Some people have talked about cheating on a spouse, some about stealing stationery from work. Oh no! Some have even confessed to murder. Okay, well, that things escalated quickly. Whether you consider your wrongdoing to be trivial or a great wickedness, you will be heard. Now for the part that makes this ritual truly unique. All right, so if someone takes this seriously, and I presume that they do because they gather all these elements and they went through all this trouble, these can be quite cathartic, right? Sometimes people that have things to get out of their chest, they just want to be heard. And it doesn't
Right.
matter if it's Lilith, the mother of monsters, they were heard.
Or the
So
priest at the confessional.
exactly, exactly. I mean, they just need to get it out. So this part may work. These may feel, releasing or relieving from a psychological point of view. You have to wait until you feel a hand on your shoulder. Oh, that's when shit gets real. Before you can end the ritual. Before you can end the ritual. You cannot end the ritual until you feel a hand on your shoulder. Holy crap. Get ready to wait. If you feel the hand on your left shoulder, you have been forgiven by Lilith. You should also expect some good fortune to come your way in the next few days as an acknowledgement of your confession. If you feel the hand on your right shoulder, that is unfortunate for you. You have been deemed unworthy by Lilith. Unworthy. A terrible misfortune is said to befall you in the next few days.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Okay, so there is an out if you are in the dreadful position of having your right shoulder tapped. If you think,
I wonder if your shoulders are that direction, does that mean it's her opposite hands? Is she behind you with your directions, or is she in front of you with opposite mirror directions?
good
And then
question.
how that ties into the left hand path and the right hand path, which if you know anything about
Yeah.
Kabbalah or magic, you have three pillars. You have the center path, the left hand, and the right hand. So she's obviously we're in left hand territory with a lot of the stuff that's happened here. So it's almost like she's a left hand path forgiving you, or right hand path giving you justice and judging your soul.
See, if she was facing you, right, if she was in front of you, and if she reached out with her right hand to touch your shoulder, that would be your left shoulder,
Yeah. See,
right?
that's an interesting question. Is like where's she positioned, where you position, and how does that reference the right and left?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So basically, if she's in front of you, then left hand means right, and if she's behind you, then is sort of the opposite. Kind of creepy to think that she might be behind you, but interesting stuff. All right, so however, right, so if you feel the right shoulder and you say, "Oh crap, I'm screwed," think fast. Because if you think fast, you can immediately say the name of someone you know out loud, and the curse will pass on to them. Oh, this is awful. This is like a completely innocent person. You just like say their name, like in Death Note, and they get a curse. Oh, this is unfortunate. You have to be fast enough to get the name out, and it has to be the name of someone who is both alive and someone whom you know personally. Miss Klinger from the third grade. For example, if you try and say the name of a world leader you don't like or a celebrity you despise, then you will be judged as trying to abuse Lilith's powers. Ooh, and your misfortune will be deadly. You made it worse, son. Yeah, you may have a sudden heart attack. See, I told you, just like Death Note. Or fatal accident very shortly after this ritual. Probably best to have a name in mind before you start the ritual, just in case. I'm sorry, Miss Klingler, if you're listening to this podcast. Nothing personal. Just I like my Reese's. As soon as the hand has touched your shoulder, the ritual is over. Nothing more will happen. no matter what you try and say or do. Okay, so no vanishing, right? Sometimes rituals have like a little goodbye portion, like a little thing they chant to call the whole thing. Like they put out a candle or they do something. Here is you feel the hand, it's over. Okay, remove your hood, remove your face covering, pour the bowl of water with a little salt, if you remember, all over the ring of salt. That's a new one. Then pack away everything else. Then you await either your reward or your punishment. That's a new one. How are rings of salt traditionally disposed of, Dapper? Do you happen to know, or it doesn't matter? Just
Well,
broom them
if
away.
if you've done the actual like dismissal process, then it's just salt on the ground. You just wipe it away.
You just get your broom and you're right and
Yeah,
just interesting.
because it's the salt. The salt isn't what does the process. The rituals do the process. The salt is like the hazmat suit. It's the rubber layer.
Right.
So you got to go in there and do the work. The salt just makes a space that contains the energy.
I see. I see. Interesting. Okay, well, so here is just washing it away with a bowl of water that had 3 pinches of salt in it, counterclockwise. Interesting. Who is Lilith? No one knows for sure. Well, I mean, we just Googled her. Although there are some theories that have been put forward. Why is she tortured? Again, no one can say with any certainty. Although the rhyme in the ritual seems to indicate that she was put to death for criminal acts, possibly unfairly, and quite probably through a nasty drawn out death. Maybe she is tortured through having to constantly be someone. I was about to say, that's torture enough. And listen to people's sinful acts over and over, more like listen to 20 people from Hot Topic talk about and then having to make decisions over their fate. Didn't South Park make this joke like Biggie got tired of being someone? Biggie Smalls.
Oh yeah, they do a lot of great jokes to the
I
the goth kids.
I think I remember that joke from South Park. I wouldn't ask too many questions about the Tortured Lilith ritual, like what happens if you remove the face covering halfway through, or what happens if the match is done burned properly. These questions have no answers, and it's probably with good reason that no one has been able to report back what happens. Well, I do have one question, which is how did they OP come up with this? How did you do it, Mr. Rain? Let's see what Rain has done. Yeah, so a bunch of horror stuff. A bunch of horror stuff. Interesting. All right. So finally, I mentioned before that you have to be selected by someone who has successfully completed the torture ritual to partake of it yourself. So, how do you know if you are the chosen one? Well, curious reader, I have been through it. Now I have given you and the whole world the opportunity to speak with Lily. There you go. Loophole has been resolved. After all, confession is good for your soul. Yeah, well, this part right here, even though it's super cute and I like it from a dramatic point of view, a story point of view,
It's kind of cheeky there.
yeah, it's like, hey, 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 now you are there. This convinces me it's fiction. Good fiction. I enjoyed it. It was well researched, apparently. I mean, either by mistake or by study, but it's fiction.
I'm gonna say that I am pretty sure that this ritual would work.
You think it would work?
I don't know if you would actually feel something on your shoulder, but do believe that if you were serious and you do rituals, like usual rituals, you make practices, you do all the, like third eye. I don't know if you've ever seen Blue Fluke. Blue Fluke has a great chaos mage guide out there. So that kind of material, if you do that stuff on a regular basis, this would actually get some result.
Who's Blue Fluke? Is this guy in Twitter, Blue Fluke?
Yeah, this is great. It's this artist, and they make something called the Psychonaut Field Guide,
Huh.
and it boils down like the Psychonaut Field Manual. If you read through that thing, it boils down. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It takes everything about the processes of what you're supposed to do and makes it fun little infographics
Haha.
for
Well,
the modern digital age.
nice art.
Yeah, really, they made a tarot deck too. I
I'm,
love the art this person
I,
has.
I'm digging the cards.
But yeah,
I get it. I get
there's
it.
a post he put out that had, my recommended books. And it's probably the best collection of books for getting into this like spooky occult stuff. especially with rituals. It'll help the audience at home understand all of these things so much better.
This is amazing. I'm gonna go through this in a second. Very interesting stuff. So, all right. Well, nothing much from the comments, honestly. I mean, a lot of people are giving OP some trouble for posting fiction. It seems like I'm not the only one who suspects fiction here. But I will say, oh, here, this one identified it as Adam's first wife. But I will say, I mean, it does his job as fiction, and
Yep.
it seems well researched. I mean, some of the stuff here doesn't feel like he just came up with it, on the fly because he thought it sounded spooky. Like, as you said, if someone tried this seriously, they may feel something or experience something. Whether that's the original wife of Adam or something else like that, I don't know.
There's
But
a lot of entities that seem to call themselves Lilith in fiction and in history.
they'll get a Lilith, right? And apparently, somebody's dog is named Lilith. So it's just I like this one, but I'm biased since my dog is named Lilith. So
So like
interesting.
I said, I think that this really is that he took a generic ritual format, themed it towards real stuff from that there's tomes and tomes of books written about this material with
Yep.
these themes in it, and he took that and applied it to a generic ritual, and then he dressed it up with all of this fancy sort
Right.
of magician look here, not there, like, ooh, it's true or maybe not. Who will ever know? Try the
Exactly.
ritual and see where it goes.
Exactly.
And it is so it's fiction, but I recognize all the elements that he's using because this is stuff that you would actually put in if you were really trying to do a ritual like this.
And
But
if
that's
you believed it, it would probably work because of your belief, right?
right, and that's why I go in the Grant Morrison territory is that it's the process of belief that feeds the energy into what you experience, whether or not it's in your head or hallucination or whatever.
Yeah.
He was like, if I want to give an offering to Zeus or to Hercules, that would seem normal to most people because they've heard of that mythologically wise. But if I wanted to say summon the power of Mickey Mouse, or my version of Hermes is Flash from DC Comics,
Yeah.
it's just as equally valid that justice could be Batman or that kindness and compassion could be Superman, and that it would serve the same purpose in the long run of what you're trying to accomplish with these rituals. Because the entities that you're contacting take these shapes based on our perception. That's why, you have mythology of the Greeks, you have mythology of the Roman, you have mythology of Sumerian, Babylon. They're all these similar stories, but they're taking the shapes that represent the culture.
Right.
And Morrison's argument in Super Gods, which is a great book on the shelf, is that the superheroes now today, the whole Marvel superhero thing, is a continuance of that Hercules and hero worship that we had back in mythology. It's the same process. It just these gods represent 1950s and 1980s and 2020.
I'm with you completely. I mean, as you know from the Enter the Shadow side things, I have this theory, right? That if you believe something about an entity, that entity becomes what you are powering it to believe, right? You are sort of shaping it with your fate, so to speak. And
Right, and you go back to the ancient mythology, and would I don't know, pick any mythological character in ancient history. Would they show up with future tech? I mean, they're gods; they should know future tech's going to exist. Do they
yeah,
show up dressed like the people who live there? The show American Gods by Neil Gaiman does the same thing. The gods take the form of what modern day believes.
right, 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 right. So all of that is wonderful, and I believe it, and it makes perfect sense. But here's the thing that keeps me awake at night. Do you think that those gods totally hate Rule 34? Like they are
Oh,
ruined by it.
I think you need to know the right gods.
I mean, because think
Hey,
of
get Dionysus and Aphrodite and the other lust gods on the phone, and I'm sure Rule 34 is all good.
they probably hate it. There's like, okay, 100 people. I'm Batman. 100 people think
Yeah.
I'm Batman.
No, I'm like,
Embodiment of
there's certain
justice.
gods and that's the thing about the gods. They represent all the spectrum of viewpoints. So you have very just gods and very chaotic gods. So
Yeah.
you'll have gods that say, "Oh yeah, let's throw an orgy, throw in a donkey or two," and you're like, "No, whoa, whoa, hold on, that's over the limit." They're like, "No, we're gods. We'll do whatever we want."
Ah, and,
Real quick,
with that wholesome note, we time flies when we're having fun. And I have to say, you're the most knowledgeable space lug I've ever
uh,
had the honor of having a share a screen with.
I
So,
know that there's so much I don't know.
so all right. Well, to everybody, to all the three people who were watching, thank you so much for watching. This is gonna be our new
Oh,
format. Yep.
I want to take one last shout out to say that I am currently doing a podcast that is horror movie reviews, and strangely enough, we've been watching a lot of possession films that are all about demons and rituals and people being possessed by entities. But the show is Citizen Couch at citizencouch.com. We're trying to get intro music right now. It's like the hardest thing to get proper intro music.
CitizenCouch.com. First episode drops this week on Spotify. Also, it hasn't dropped yet. Is it really gonna
No,
drop
no,
this
there
week?
is. We had a thing up for test, but it's gonna go live hopefully I think next week or the week after.
As soon as it does, please give me the link. I'll be honored to post that somewhere.
And I appreciate it. If we start doing a guest format, we'll definitely try and bring you on. But you
I'll
gotta watch a horror movie.
Yeah, I'll watch it. I'll do what it takes.
You see, me and the dude who runs it, we're like old school buddies in real life. That we
Excellent.
met up and we hung out. And he moved away, but we want to do like a book club. Like, oh, let's watch something, and let's just bullshit about it and have fun.
I
So this
love
is the
it.
project we ended up with.
I love it, and I'm in. Just tell me when you need me, and I'll be there, man. Love this stuff. All right, excellent. Well, thank you everybody for listening. And if this is fun for Dapper, this is fun for me. It's fun for both. So we'll probably do it again next week. And yeah, stay safe, kids. Watch out for Lilith. Have a good weekend, and see you on the next one. Bye bye.